Buenos Dias a todas, and good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Safari Mack in South America. I'm your guide and your host, helping you make connections to the wild. If you are just joining me from last week's episode, we are saying goodbye to the king of the South American skies, the Andean condor, and are beginning to touch base with our very first land animal of South America during our first expedition through this lost, wondrous continent. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are meeting the capybara. But before we begin, as always, if you are new to my channel, welcome. Hit the like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page. If you have questions, send me an email, which you'll find the link to down in the description below. And of course, be sure to tell others about my series for those who love animals and nature, or if you know somebody that wants to make a connection to the wild. If we're all set and good to go, though, let's begin. Let's start off with their evolution and their family. Now, in terms of their evolution, this one was a little tricky, but thankfully I was able to find a little bit of interesting information. Now, the capybara is part of a family called the cavimorphs. These were cavy-like rodents, which were thought to have appeared somewhere around 37.5 million to 31.5 million years ago in Africa, before they would eventually make their way over to South America millions of years ago. And then it's thought that the very first true original capybaras, like we know today, were thought to have originated somewhere within Argentina, roughly around 9 million years ago. But their story doesn't end there. So we probably have heard of the term the land bridge, right? That's a piece of land that connects one greater landmass to another. So we know with the ice ages, that's how the mammoths were eventually able to get from Asia to North America, or how even though the horse originated in North America, they crossed over into Asia, Europe, and so on and so forth. Central America is an example of this land bridge. So, as North America and South America began to collide with one another, great landmass opened up, and this gave a highway chance for many different animals to go forward or to go back. So, while the Smilodon and other prehistoric animals went to South America, other creatures, like the terror bird or spiky-tailed relatives of the armadillo, the size of a car, went north. The capybaras were no exception. In fact, it's thought that their earliest fossils some of the fossils were found in Florida, Texas, California, even as far north as South Carolina. But let's talk about their cousins. Now, one of their cousins actually is our guinea pigs, which are also thought to have originated in South America, but we'll get to them at a much later time. Now, in terms of their other cousins, they're part of the member called Rodentia, or rodents. These include squirrels, gerbils, mice, chipmunks, even the second largest rodent member of the rodent family, the beaver. So capybaras actually take the top place of being the largest, with some individuals weighing as much as 77 pounds to nearly 150 pounds. But now let's talk about their lifestyle. Now, in terms of their habitat, these creatures are meant to be thriving along permanent sources of water, whether it's a lake, it's a river, it's a pond. Wherever there's water, from jungles like in the Amazon to flooded plains and flooded savannas, wherever there's water, these creatures call home. Now, these semi-aquatic rodents live in family groups where it's similar to hippos in Africa. These groups can have as many as 40 individuals with a single dominant breeding bull, females and their offspring, and subordinate males. Now, like I said, the dominant bull would be the father to most. However, some studies have actually shown that some of these subordinate males will sneak in a chance to become fathers themselves when the dominant male isn't looking. Now, usually these creatures spend most of their days staying cool by lounging in the pools or the water, as well as looking for food at different times of the day, either in the evening or early morning or very late afternoon. So, and then, usually, these creatures, after a gestation period of 130 to 150 days, a female can give birth from anywhere to a single baby to around as many as 8 babies at a time. Usually she looks after them until they reach about a year old, and by the time they reach a year old, these creatures will eventually leave their family groups and go off to find other groups to join. This is what prevents inbreeding. But now, it's time to talk about fine dining. I know, fine dining. Now, here's exactly what I'm talking about. Their diet. Now, capybaras are generally herbivores. They usually eat leaves, grass, and different kinds of plant material. However, studies have actually shown that they are extremely picky creatures. And it kind of does pay to be picky. For they are very selective. They're actually more selective about what they're going to eat at different times of the year. So, for example, they will actually eat a greater variety of plants during the dry season, while they eat mostly grass during the wet season. And then while they do that, they eventually will switch over to reeds, especially during the dry season when the grass begins to dry up. But here's some of the grass that they will eat. They are known to eat sedge, switchgrass, and Bermuda grass. But now here's a pretty fun, interesting fact about the capybara. In a sense, we can consider this as our first wild thing. Now, capybaras, as I've mentioned, they are part of the rodent family. A big characteristic about rodents is that they have, of course, these two buck incisor-like teeth that are known to consistently grow throughout their entire lives. In fact, if left unchecked, it can actually, some of them teeth can grow into their brain and it can kill them. So to prevent this from happening, to keep their teeth from getting too long, they consistently look for hard things like bark to grind their teeth down to prevent injury. Now, in terms of human culture, this one was not exactly the easiest to discover. For you see, in terms of South American culture, unlike the Andean condor, they really don't have a place in mythology or just anything else that we would consider to be part of animals in human culture today. However, they actually did make a statement in terms of meme culture or modern day culture. So here's what I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nordelta, Argentina. It's thought to be where most of the wealth of Argentina may live. However, capybara, it was overtaken from the capybaras, but thanks to their adaptability, they, in a way, began to invade this area, and because there were not many predators, or people weren't wanting to kill them, they started to take over and multiply pretty quickly. So, as a result of this, some people have actually seen these creatures as in a way of like a comically acclaimed as a kind of figure regarding the rich of Argentina as well as the poor communities. So these were seen as like the poor class reclaiming their original homeland. How that got started, I honestly have no idea. It was all down in southern Argentina. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all the time that I have for this animal today, so be sure to join me next week for part 2. But until next week, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there in South America.